Hello, I'm Linda Marie Colon for Making It, Artisan Stories, and I'm here with Anatar Marmal Gagne, artist, fabricator, puppeteer, and performer. And all of her creations, we have a great show lined up. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I want to hear the whole journey. I know that you originate in Venezuela, made your way to New York, and you are a resident of Northford, Connecticut, and a performer nationwide with all of your creations, including felting and wood carving, puppets. I'm going to just give the floor to you and just let you take me through the journey from when the artistry took hold of you and how you evolved.
Okay. I've been drawing and painting for my entire life. I did a lot of dance and movement and music, and it was just a very big part of my life.
So as a child, fine arts
fine
took
arts.
precedent.
Yeah, and everything, which I'm very grateful for.
Mm-hmm. And this was in Venezuela?
This was in Venezuela, and then I moved to New York when I was about 7 and continued with fine arts and ended up majoring in art at LaGuardia High School. I decided to take a slightly different route in undergrad and did creative writing because I really, really like that art form. But it was still, art was still a very big part of everything I did. Last year I graduated from UConn, the puppet arts program, and I got my MFA. So it's just all encompassing everything that I've done for my entire life, pretty much.
And it always had to do with art, your career choices throughout all of these times and your moves throughout while you were studying. Were you also making a living?
Not always. For a long time I was doing interpreting. I really like languages and that art form.
Linguistics is definitely a part of the arts.
And I love words and just the play on words and all of that. So I worked as an interpreter for a very long time.
Amazing. And so tell us how the puppets came to be. There's so many here that I'm very excited to go over all of them.
Puppets have always been a part of just my household. So I grew up playing with puppets, making, basic puppets growing up. These puppets in particular, just been felting a lot of the puppets in recent years. And it's really a really wonderful combination. I feel like I'm painting with the felt, and watercolor is actually one of my favorite medias.
So this is an example of a felted puppet.
Yes.
Which consists of
wool roving. It's
very delicate, very fragile.
They seem more fragile than they actually are. The wonderful thing about these puppets is that they're very easy to transport. They're very light. If you see the hand puppets in the back here from the Superhero Within, they're very light on the hand. So after hours of having a puppet on your hand, you want to think about weight and all of those factors. So they
logistics.
They look more delicate than they actually are. This is Lula, a stop motion puppet. I did a little stop motion with her. So she's got full armature so that I could, move her and take the shot and do anything that I need to do with her. And the cat too is also stop motion, but he's got full armature, so I can do different things with the cat.
So you create the puppets and then you have them either doing stop motion that you do. I've actually seen it on your website. And then you have puppets that you've created that are slightly larger that you have over your hand and you perform. In what types of venues? I see that you have the Superhero Academy, so I think they're all tied in together.
Yes, the Superhero Within, that's the backdrop for Superhero Within, I actually developed at UConn. It was my MFA project, and it's active shooter training for elementary school children, told through superheroes and villains, a very palpable and non-scary way to show kids what to do in an active shooter situation.
Okay, so it's a training device and a concept that's to take some of the fear out of the subject at hand.
Yes.
And get the message across to young children.
Yes.
In the situation that if there is an active shooter, what to do.
Yeah.
How do you find that when you're conveying it? You're using all of these characters and you find that it does hold the children's attention and they are retaining the messaging.
They really are. A lot of research went into that show to make sure that the elements are there and it's not scary. And it's also a very fun show.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just 1, 2, 3. It's a whole story. They're at a superhero academy and, they're all cadets in training. And then evil comes, and what do you do then? So it is, even though it's a serious subject, it is a very fun show. And kids really, really love it and understand it.
So fun yet effective.
Yes.
Is that a nationwide initiative throughout all of the schools, or how is that marketed, and then where do you perform?
That's what I would like to go with it. The biggest hurdle that I'm having with the Superhero Within is that people are really afraid of the show. People are still really afraid to talk about active shooter awareness training for children. It's not an easy show to push. I've performed it a few times. It's a hard show.
It is sort of softening a subject that is very scary and very hard to talk about, and with practicing with lockdowns, etc. I think this definitely is a way, though, of getting that concise messaging down and some consistency.
I believe so, and in
with
a very
standard
fun
procedure.
Yeah.
In a fun way, like we talked about. These guys in the back are incredible.
Thank you.
I'm sure they're well received by the students, regardless of the subject at hand. So do they all have names? Because they're superheroes. They must have names.
Yes, that's Sage. She's a little bit older, a little bit drier, a little sarcastic. That is Trent. And all the way at the end is Alex. And she's just super hyper and ridiculous and fun.
And they all have roles which work together to get the concept across to the students.
Yeah. Their personalities are very, very precise, so that if one is stuck, the other one can pull the other student out of that situation.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
There's the thread of teamwork.
Yeah.
Which, if there is that situation, that would be, expected that the students work together. So tell me, in the front here, we have one of my favorite artists, Frida Kahlo, and I see that you have multiple Puppeteer representing Frida Kahlo. You want to tell me a little bit about these felted ones?
These Fridas are part of my show, Calle Allende. I developed that a couple years ago. It started off as a 15-minute piece, just inspired by one of her journal entries. She's one of my favorite artists, obviously, because there's so many Fridas sitting here. One of her journal entries are just so beautiful about the origin of the two Fridas, and now it's just a full-length show. So I had started with a smaller puppet. The show grew because I recreate Frida Kahlo's bedroom. I needed larger puppets, so now I actually end up using all of the puppets at some point in the show.
For our viewers who may not be familiar, Frida Kahlo is a Mexican artist whose home is now a museum called Casa Azul in Michoacan. And you've recreated that bedroom, and you've taken a page out of her journal and brought it to life. And so these different sizes, do they represent different phases, or how do you work in the various sizes of the felted puppets?
Yes. The show really focuses on her towards her later years when she was in so much pain. Her leg had just been amputated, and her inspiration was teetering. So she was having a very hard time painting. If she doesn't reconcile that with her broken self, then what's the point of living? And that she kind of talks about that in her diaries. And so it's that journey. The smaller puppets come out at one point in the show at the beginning of the journey, and then you see the larger puppet.
And where have you performed that?
I've performed it at Dixon Place in New York, Lyric Hall in New Haven, at the Ballard Institute Museum of Puppetry, up in stores. this past November, we took it to Black Cherry Puppet Theater in Baltimore.
How was it received?
It was very well received,
Mhm.
very well received. We will probably be going back to
Yes.
Black Cherry Puppet Theater.
That's
It was a
amazing.
wonderful theater.
Now tell me, you also have exhibited at the Open Studios, that art space of New Haven.
Yes.
Tell us about what your exhibit consists of there.
Last year was the first year I actually
Mhm.
set up at Open Studios. I'd been going there for years, and because I was in grad school for 4 years, I just everything was kind of to the side. But it was a really wonderful experience. I met a lot of wonderful people, and it's just really inspiring to walk around Open Studios to see what everybody is
There's
up
a lot
to.
of talent
There really is.
right in New Haven.
There really is.
So you're in Northford.
Mhm.
I assume your home has special places for all of your puppets to hang out until they're needed.
The house is crowded. Between all the puppets and all of my other collectibles, yeah, there's a lot of stuff and sets and props. And
So tell me about the wood carved puppet behind you that I just can't stop staring at, and what role they play.
This is Tarek. He's completely hand carved out of wood. I initially designed and created him at UConn. Last year, I had the privilege of going to the National Puppet Conference in Waterford, and I worked with Philip Hubert, who's an incredible marionettist, and restrung him, redid the control, redid a lot of the joints. I redid him completely, the way he moved. It was just so beautiful that he just needed to dance. So a lot of the time I'll come up with a concept, but really the puppet takes over and tells me what they want to do. Tarek needed a tutu, so I gave him a tutu.
So he takes on a persona, and
Yep.
you go with it.
Absolutely.
So, and I could see how the fine arts are all interwoven. So there's the dance, there's some painting involved.
Yeah.
In the creations. And how did you decide that now this is going to be the career move? So you sort of evolved from interpreter to studying on the side to obtaining your master's in fine arts, and then focusing on puppeteering, and then taking it to another level of performing.
It's funny, puppetry has always been there, and it was staring me in the face, but it hadn't melded. Let's see.
To take a while for you to see this
makes sense.
This is what I do. This is a great
Absolutely
fit.
makes sense. So I had made puppets in the past, but I was like, oh, that would be great to be able to do. And then when I realized, no, this is what I need to be doing.
This is
It
your
just
calling.
clicked. It is absolutely my calling. It just felt so natural because of all of the fine arts and the movement, and it's such a crossroads of all of these disciplines.
I was going to say it's a great melding of multimedia.
Yeah.
You know, you have painting, you have felting, like you said. And what is he made of besides wood carvings? Is the face and the head as well?
These all wood. The joints, some of the joints are fabric, so that I could get the precise movement that I wanted
For the mobility,
for his
okay.
pirouettes and his leaping and all of those
So
things.
he's doing real dance moves.
Oh, yes. Yeah. He was very heavy at first, so there's a lot of, I had to drill a lot of holes. These are actually styrofoam, and then there's, they're covered in rock Overton putty, so that it didn't add to the weight, but it's pretty much all wood.
Does he go on the road with you?
Yes, I'm actually performing with Tarek this weekend at the Brookline, the puppet show place, Puppet Slam.
And is that in Connecticut?
That is in Boston, Brookline, Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your inspiration from. So you're a fan of Frida Kahlo. This is a great concept for students. The dancer, where else do you get inspiration? Does it come to you and you just start working in your studio, or are you often commissioned?
Dramatic Question Theater in New York contacted me for doing puppets for a new production, so I did a cat and dog puppet for the pep play. It just depends, really. Sometimes I see a person on the street that I think, I've got some really wonderful features, and then I'll go home and sketch it out and create a character, or it just comes to me. Or Lula, I just started felting, and then it just whatever comes out. It just really depends.
So do you often sketch out and illustrate the concept, or you just start working with your hands and literally making it?
A lot of the time, I just start like working with my hands. I did design Tarek and the puppets for Superhero Within. I also designed, but like the backdrop behind you, I just started felting.
And as a writer, then are you writing the script?
Yeah.
As well.
Yes.
So you're scripting all of your pieces, forming them,
coming up with the voices, costuming, all of it.
And so you're really a one-woman show.
Yeah, pretty much.
Literally.
Yeah.
Oh, this is incredible. And one little one behind you and one over here that we haven't talked about yet. So another dance theme. I see ballet slippers.
Last year, I guess, I really wanted to let the dancer come out. That little heart is from a short movie, Heartfelt.
And these are all backgrounds, too. I see this one looks like it's got flowers and sort of a mountainous setting to it. So you also do the backdrops.
Yeah, which I find really important for a lot of especially the hand shows.
To set the scene.
Yeah. And also, I mean, the whole scene, it's really important to really set the tone and set the scene. Have the person just be there immediately.
And so they can easily orientate themselves. So where can we see your work? You're on a website.
Yes, pinnedandsutured.com. Also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
So we can see your schedule for performances?
Yes, I have my full schedule up.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Linda Marie Colomb from Making It, Artisan Stories. And this is Anatar Marmal Bamier, puppeteer, fabricator, artist. Thanks again, and thanks for watching.